Thank you for standing. Please be seated.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Davidson.
Thank you. May I approach the witness room?
Yes.
I'm going to hand you a number of other photographs. Can you just sort of look through them generally and let me know what they depict?
Most of my injuries and blood on my clothes.
Do those photographs appear to depict what you looked like when you were in police custody that morning?
Yes.
I want to go through those with you in order, if we could, please, in the order that they're hopefully still in. If you could just turn over and let me know which exhibit number it is and describe what it is.
423.
Okay.
It's
What are we looking at in 423?
it's like a lump and some cuts on the side of my head.
Do you know how that was caused?
I think it was probably when the guy was kicking me in the head or stomping or
So this would have been while you were under the pile?
yes.
Move to admit 423, Your Honor.
No objection, and if it makes it quicker, I don't object to the rest of those photos if you want to publish and go through them that way.
All right. Just, I didn't write them down as the only thing, Mr. Davidson, when we went over them, so if you just identify them and I can make sure that they're
Sure.
accounted for.
What I'll do, Steve, is we'll publish these one at a time. We'll just have you talk about them as they're put up on the bigger screen, okay?
Okay.
Your Honor, we move to admit 423, 424, 427, 432, 433, 435, 436, 439, 465, 461, 457, 454, 452, and 451.
All right, all are admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Go ahead.
What are we looking at here, Steve?
The left side of my face.
Are these the injuries that you just described a moment ago as the ones you believe you received while you're at the bottom of the pile?
Yes.
There also appears to be some dark redness by your lower lip. Do you know what that is?
That would be dried blood
From where?
from my mouth. From when I got punched.
You were bleeding from the mouth when you were punched?
Yes.
What are we looking at here, Steve?
My face.
You also have some dry blood on the top of your mouth as well?
Yes. Yes.
Was that also from the punch?
I believe so.
Did you suffer any other injuries in your mouth as a result of the punch?
Yeah, my two teeth next to my two front teeth, my bridges, my dental bridges were knocked out.
Did you have anything happen to any of your other teeth?
Yeah, the one right next to my front tooth was loose, and I almost had to get it pulled pulled later, and then it died.
This looks like your right hand.
Yes.
There appears to be an injury to the top of your thumb.
Yeah. Yes.
How did that get caused?
When Nick Pletke tried to get my gun, and we were fighting on the ground for it, my thumbs, because I had it around the grip like this, and my thumb scraped against the ground.
Now, you mentioned Nick Pletke specifically. You didn't
Yes.
realize it was Nick Pletke at the time, correct?
No, I had no clue who it was.
You later, through the course of this trial and reviewing the case, determined that's who it was?
Yes.
I understood your testimony earlier to say that you were also reapproached a second time by somebody right before Chase Jones appeared?
Yes.
Was that also Mr. Pletke?
Yes.
Now, this photograph, you appear to be showing an area on the back of your head, and there appears to be a red mark behind your right ear.
Yes.
What can you tell us about this?
I don't really remember how I got that, but it must have been when I was jumped the second time on the ground. I hit my head on the pavement.
Do you recall whether you had any lumps on the back of your head?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Does that location that you're showing in this photograph appear to correspond where you believe one of the lumps were?
I believe so, yes.
And I don't know if it's visible from where you are, but there appears to be a faint dark red spot in the center of your chest on this shirt.
Could I try to point to it?
Sure.
There?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
That was blood dripping from my mouth.
Scuff mark or area that looks whiter than it usually does?
Yeah, like right on the kneecap area,
Can you point to it, please?
right there.
Is that also from when you were kneeling down trying to render aid?
Yes, I believe so.
This picture appears to depict a shoe. Do you recognize that shoe?
Yes, it's my shoe.
Is that a shoe you were wearing that night?
Yes.
What's that on your toe?
Blood.
You know how that got there?
It dripped from my mouth, I think.
Are those the jeans you were wearing that night?
Yes.
And there appears to be some red spots on both legs.
Yes.
Was that also from your mouth?
I believe so, yes.
Is that the top of your left forearm?
Yes.
Do you see anything towards the top of the picture that's different from how your arm normally looks?
I've got a little scrape up there toward the top.
Point to it.
Yeah. Right there.
Do you know at what point that was caused?
I can't really remember, but if I had to guess, it was probably when I was on the ground and everyone was on top of me.
Is that a picture of your right shoulder?
Yes.
What are we looking at there just in front of your collarbone?
An NAU Police Department measuring stick.
And what's to the left of that?
It looks like a bruise.
Is that something that was caused that evening as well?
Yes.
This appears to be further up on your left forearm.
Yes.
What are we looking at here?
My elbow.
Does this photograph depict any injuries you received that night?
Yes, it does.
Can you describe them and to the best of your abilities let us know how they were caused?
They look like bruises and scrapes and cuts. I'm pretty sure I got those when I was on the ground. When everybody piled on, I was in the fetal position, so I covered my face with my arm like that. I still have the scars.
That looks like the rear of your right shoulder, is that correct?
Yes.
Does that photograph depict any injuries that you received that night?
It looks like a bruise.
Do you know how that was caused?
No.
Did you have that before you were involved in this altercation that evening?
No.
This photograph appears to depict your left shoulder. Is there anything about this picture that's different than the normal appearance of your left shoulder?
It kind of looks like road rash, like scrapes and cuts from being dragged.
Was that also caused the evening in question?
Yes.
Let me back up a little bit, and then we'll talk more about your time in police custody. How would you characterize what was going on in your head during the period of time you were inside your car?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
How long were you inside your car?
3 or 4 seconds.
When you're inside your car for 3 or 4 seconds, did you consider closing the door and calling 911?
Yes.
Did you do that?
No.
Why not?
Because my phone was at 1%, and I didn't know where the cops were, if they would get there in time, and I just
Did you consider just locking the doors and waiting for help to arrive?
No.
Do you think that would have secured your safety?
No. I wasn't safe in my car.
Why not?
Because I didn't have my keys and I couldn't leave. I didn't think I had my keys and I couldn't leave. And they could have just pulled me out or broken the window or,
Why did you think they were capable of doing that at that point?
because they'd already knocked out my teeth and told me they were going to kill me and called me a faggot. And they had already punched and pushed and shoved my friends. And I saw that one guy swinging the beer bottle or whatever it was.
When you recovered your pistol and announced that you had it, is that something that you did once or more than once?
More than once.
At any time, did you see anybody react or acknowledge to the fact that you made that announcement?
No. Oh, actually, I think when the third time I said it, I think I heard someone say, like, "Oh shit," in the back. But I don't know if that was because of me or not.
Aside from that, did anybody acknowledge you announcing that you had a gun?
No.
How were you feeling while you were in police custody?
Objection, relevance.
Goes to the weight of his statement, Your Honor.
Overruled.
I was mostly concerned, like anxious to find out what happened to the people who got hurt and what happened to my friends. I was constantly asking them about that, and I was still really freaked out and crying and screaming and stuff.
How were you feeling physically?
I was really exhausted. I was like tired because I'd been up early that morning for class, and it was the next morning. Yeah.
When you were talking to the police, did you try to give them an account of the situation that was as true to your memory as possible?
Yes.
And we talked about earlier the fact that there's approximately 90 feet between your car and where the shell casings were recovered?
Yes.
And we're not disputing that, right?
No.
Okay. Do you recall what you perceived or what you told the police you believe the distance was between your car and where the shooting happened at night?
I believe I told them it was like 3 or 4 steps.
That you took 3 or 4 steps from your car?
Yes. And then they were 10 to 15 feet away from the car.
You know now that's obviously not accurate, correct?
Correct.
Why'd you tell the police that? Were you trying to minimize things?
No. That's just what I believed it to be at the time.
You also drew a diagram for the police at their request?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Stephen, I'm showing you a marker identification as 482.
Okay.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is that?
It's a map I drew for the police.
Are there any markings on that map where you were trying to illustrate where certain things happened?
Yes.
What specifically were you trying to document?
Where my car was in relation to the drive, the service drive, and then where I went and where the people who charged me went.
Move to admit, Your Honor.
No objection.
482 is admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Stephen, can you sort of orient us to maybe where the courtyard is or the dormitory is so that we can better understand this?
Yes. This is Franklin Avenue right here, and this is the Mountain View Service Drive. This is Mountain View Hall, and this is where I put the courtyard.
What were you trying to illustrate just south of where you were pointing?
Right here.
No, there appears to be like a rectangle.
Oh, that's my car.
Okay.
And then this is the big group of guys, and then I drew an arrow to a circle here because that was where I put the two people who charged me, I believe.
This was something that you drew that evening,
Yes.
or that morning, I should say.
Yes.
Okay. Were you trying to deceive or manipulate the police when you drew this diagram for them?
No.
Would you agree with me, with the benefit of the Leica scan and the hundreds of photographs that have since been produced, that where all that occurred is a little bit further south?
Yes.
Is this what you perceived at the time?
Yes.
And what is on the left here?
This,
Yes.
I don't remember. I think the officer who was talking to me drew that. I'm not quite sure.
Is this, are these lines from these horizontal lines from your car to the service drive area intended to reflect the path that someone took, or do you,
I believe so.
okay. Do you know what specifically that's intended to reflect?
I don't remember.
Are there any other markings on here that you're able to correlate with any particular thing you were trying to describe or explain?
I think I said that was where I got punched. And then the officer drew this line to when he was asking me about which way they chased me, and he drew over here to the service drive. That's all I remember.
Does this diagram reflect any depiction of your attempt to get into Mountain View before going to your car?
Yes, right there. That.
And I realize this obviously isn't the best illustration we have of that area in this trial, but the particular entrance through which you were trying to enter Mountain View, is that where it was located, sort of on the west side of the building facing the park?
Yeah, it would have been somewhere around here.
Stephen, you were present when the medical examiner testified?
Yes.
You recall his testimony that his measurement of the decedent's length was 67.5 inches?
Yes.
Earlier today, did I ask you to measure an exhibit?
Yes.
Was it exhibit 470?
Yes.
Was
Yes, it was.
Does Exhibit 470 appear to be a scaled but enlarged reproduction of the diagram that was drawn by the medical team?
Yes.
Move to admit 470, Your Honor.
No objection.
470 is admitted.
And Stephen, I'd like to have him stand next to the judge for reference where I would have him stand.
In front of the jury where they can see it.
Stephen, if you'd be so kind as to just step up for a second. And just stand and face the jury so we can. Stephen, do the downward angles that were depicted by the medical examiner, to the best of your memory, appear to be consistent with the angle of the lunge or the charge that Mr. Drew engaged in before the shots were fired?
Yes.
Stephen, if you didn't fire your gun that night, do you believe you'd be sitting here today?
No.
Was there any point in time prior to the arrival of the police where you no longer felt that Shay was in danger?
No.
Was there ever a point in time prior to the arrival of the police where you no longer felt that Jake was in danger?
No.
Stephen, was there ever a point in time prior to you being approached by Chase Jones and him tapping you on the shoulder and talking to you where you no longer felt that your life was in danger?
No.
Has the interview with you and the police been transcribed?
Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to review it?
Yes.
It's pretty long, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you know approximately how many pages it is?
220?
Is it fair to say, in looking through the transcript, that there are a couple things in there that are inconsistent with what you've since learned about the case?
Yes.
Was it ever your intent in talking to the police to tell them anything other than the truth?
No.
When the police were interviewing you, were there ever occasions where you became so emotional that it was difficult
Objection.
for you to...
relevance.
Let me finish the question, please.
Were there periods of times when you were being interviewed by the police where you became so emotional that you were unable to respond to them?
Just a second, please.
Relevance.
Goes to the weight of the statements, Judge.
I think we went over that, asked and answered.
Didn't ask this particular question.
The objection's overruled. You can answer.
Yes, there was.
And what were you doing during those periods of time?
Crying and screaming and like rolling around on the floor.
Did you inquire into the condition of the people that you later...
Objection. Relevance.
Sustained.
Can I finish my question, Judge, for the record?
I know where you're going with.
Okay. How many times did the police, approximately, how many times did the police ask you to re-explain what happened earlier that evening?
4 times.
Was there ever an occasion where you explained to the police that either because you were tired or because of the emotional result of what you had experienced, that you were unsure about the accuracy of the information you were reporting?
Yes, when he asked me to draw a map, I told him, I said, I'm really tired and it's probably not going to be that accurate.
Separate and apart from the map, were there times where you advised the police that you weren't entirely sure about the information you were reporting?
Yes.
Is that something you did once or more than once?
Like 5 or 6 times.
No further questions, Judge?
Cross-exam, Mr. Barker.
Thank you. Sir, if I understood correctly, in your mind, this was a kill or be killed situation. Is that fair?
Defend yourself situation, yes.
Okay, but you were going to kill someone because you thought you were going to be killed, correct?
No, it was never my goal to kill someone.
What do you think happens when you shoot someone in the chest?
They get seriously hurt.
That's what you think happens every time?
Sometimes people who get shot in the chest die.
Right. Like this time?
Yes,
Okay. And you intentionally shot that person, correct?
correct.
You intentionally shot Colin, and you intentionally shot Nick Peering as well, right?
Just Colin and Nick Peering.
That's what, well, that was my question, right?
Yes,
So you agree with that?
yes,
That was your intent, and you carried it out?
yes,
Okay. And you decided to shoot Colin because you said, or you thought, that he was way bigger than you, right?
no.
Well, that's what you told the police multiple times, didn't you?
I told the police he was bigger than me, yes.
Right. In fact, you said he was way bigger than me.
Yes,
Your words.
yes,
You stood next to this diagram, and I don't... .470. You agree with me that you're taller than that diagram, right?
yes,
You measured it out. It was supposed to be consistent with Colin's height.
yes.
So he wasn't way bigger than you.
He was a little shorter than me, but much more muscular.
How much do you weigh?
Right now, 168,
How much did you weigh at the time?
155.
So you shot Colin center mass, right?
Correct?
You were aiming for that area,
Yes,
and you gave him a double tap, right?
correct.
That was the word. Those are the words that you used in describing what you did to Colin. A double tap, right?
Correct.
What is a double tap?
It's 2 shots in quick succession to center mass.
When you were at your car, if I understood correctly, you got your gun out of your glove box, right?
Correct?
Was it inside something?
Yes.
What?
It was in a cloth triangular shaped gun rack.
All right. And was that closed by a zip or anything?
It was unzipped, it was open.
All right. So you took the gun out of that case, out of the glove box, right?
Yes.
Where'd you put the case?
It just, I grabbed the gun out of the case and ripped the case off and it went flying.
Okay. Did you see a photo of it earlier today?
Yes, I did.
And that was your case?
Yes.
All right. And then you got the gun out, and was a magazine already in it?
Yes.
And then you racked the slide, right?
Yes.
And what does that do to the gun?
It takes it it makes it ready to fire. It puts a round into the chamber.
Right. So it was ready to fire once you were still inside the car sitting there, right?
Correct.
At what point did you turn on the light?
When I stepped out of the car.
Right as you stepped out?
I'm pretty sure it was as I was stepping out.
So let's go through some of the statements you gave to the police. You indicated earlier that you may have been wrong about some things, right?
Correct.
In fact, you were wrong about more than a couple things. Fair?
I don't know how many.
All right, well, let's go through them one by one. So first you said that these guys were all huge, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Can counsel refer to a specific page and line of the
Sure. Page 27, lines 21 through 22. Do you have the transcript up there?
I do not.
Yes.
I'm handing you what's been marked as Exhibit 360. Does that look like the transcript of the interview you gave to the police?
Yes, it does.
Well, first let me ask you, do you deny that you said to the police that these guys were all huge?
No.
Okay. How tall are you?
Like 5'11", 6 foot.
And you've been here watching the testimony of other witnesses, right?
Correct.
How many of those do you think were taller than you?
At the time, I thought all of them were.
So you thought all of them were taller than you, and it turned out that that was wrong, right?
Correct.
So you're wrong about the size of these people. Let's talk about the distance a little bit. Your attorney described that at several times during the interview you were wrong about the distance between the car and where you shot the victims in the case, right?
Correct.
So I want you to explain some passages for me. If you could turn to page 30 in that exhibit, 360. Tell me when you get there.
360?
360 is the exhibit number. Turn to page 30.
I'm there.
All right, you see lines, start at line 22, where you say to the officer, you're describing what happened. I get in my car and I'm sitting in there. I see them coming at me, so I like panic and I freeze for a second. I can't find my keys. You see where I'm reading?
Yes.
I'm not going to start it in time. I'm thinking, oh my God, I got out my gun and yelled, I have a gun. Then I racked the slide. I turned on the flashlight and pointed at them and said, I have a gun, don't fucking move. You're describing an event that occurred at your car right there, right?
Your Honor, I'd ask under Rule 106 that counsel read the remainder of that response.
That's fine.
All right, go ahead.
And then, that's the rest of what you said, right?
Then there's like something in brackets.
Right. And that's not anything that you said, correct?
No, it's something that I did.
So you said to the officers at that point that you were sitting in your car when you got the gun out, right?
Yes.
Okay, you're in the driver's seat at this point.
Correct.
Keys are in your front pocket, although you claim you couldn't find them, right?
Correct.
And you say you freeze for a second. So there's a moment there where you're thinking of your next step, right?
I was just frozen in fear for a second.
In fact, you told the police that you were in the car for a good 4 to 5 seconds, right?
I believe I said 3 or 4.
Okay. There was some time there, right, where you were sitting there in the car alone?
Correct.
And then you described to the police you think you have to go get your gun or you have to get your gun out, right?
Where does it say that?
I mean, this is something that happened to you, right? I'm asking you. Is that what happened?
No.
You didn't think I have to get my gun?
I did.
Okay, so the answer is yes.
But I didn't tell them I have to go get my gun.
I'm asking you your experience, sir.
When I was in the car, I thought I had to get my
Right,
gun.
okay. So let's move on from there. Then you say to the police that you yelled, you have a gun, right?
Correct.
And you're still in the car at that point.
Correct.
And there was nobody around you, right?
No, there were those 2 guys that I mentioned
Where?
out the driver's side door.
How far away?
At the time, it seemed like 10 or 15 feet.
It seemed like 10 or 15 feet away from your car door?
Correct.
How much space was there in actuality?
I learned it was 90 feet later.
Okay, so you were just dead wrong on that.
I suppose so, yes.
Where were they exactly? When you say they're 90 feet away, where were they?
They were back up toward the service drive.
So they were on the driveway, the one we've been seeing, that sidewalk area?
I don't really remember exactly, but they were to the left, out the left side.
I mean, you told the police that you were alone in your car, right?
Correct? I think so. I think I
Okay.
said that.
Nobody was there. I mean, is there something else that we should know? Was anyone there struggling over the gun with you?
Not while I was in the car, no.
Okay. It was just you alone in the car. Do I have that right?
Correct.
All right. So this is the first time you described to the police about how you were in your car when you had this confrontation that actually happened 90 feet away from there, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you continue to tell the officer, I'm looking at page 31 now, lines 7 through 10, I was right here in front of my car, and they were right here running at me. What are you talking about right there?
That was after I had gotten out of the car.
So you're right in front of your car, you say?
Yeah.
And
Yes,
they were
yes.
running at you? Where?
After I had gotten out and took a few steps toward them. They-
Right in front of your car?
That's what I said,
Okay.
correct.
And they were running at you from where?
From, it would be the east.
From what part of the east side of that parking lot?
I don't really know. It would have, I thought at the time it was about 10 to 15 feet away.
All right. And you continue to say that you were right in front of your car, but actually they were 90 feet away from you?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
When they were running toward you, you say that they were running as fast as they could, right? That's how you described it?
Correct.
Okay. From 90 feet away.
It didn't seem like that. I didn't know how far away they were at the time.
All right. But you keep saying to the officers that you were right in front of your car, right?
Correct.
I mean, you say that again and again. Every single time they ask you to talk about this, you keep saying, I'm right in front of my car or 3 or 4 feet away. Do you disagree with that?
I said 3 or 4 steps.
So each time you were describing that, you were just wrong about it, right?
Correct.
When did you learn that you were completely wrong about how far away these people were?
I think the first time I saw the map.
So if you were, well, would you agree with me, sir, that that distance means something in this case? There's some significance there?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for a legal conclusion, vague.
Sustained.
Would you agree that the distances in this case are important to understand?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for a legal conclusion.
I'm not asking for a legal conclusion.
Invades the province of the jury, vague.
Sustained.
Well, let me ask you a different way. To understand what happened that night, do you think distance is important?
Same objection, Your Honor.
To understand what happened, Judge, it's not asked for a legal conclusion.
The objection is overruled.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're wrong about that, you could be wrong about other things, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
It's somewhat vague, too, Mr. Parker. I'm going to sustain the objection.
All right. You were wrong about that, and you could be wrong about other things you told the police that night, right?
Correct.
Okay, and we talked about a couple of them. One of them is that you thought everybody was big, and then this instance where you keep talking about how you're right in front of your car when these people were running at you, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Sustained.
So you keep talking to the officers, and now I'm at line 61. This is a different officer. This is Officer Park, right?
Sorry, line 61?
I'm sorry, page 61.
What line?
Lines 19 through 22. You say, so I step out of the car, and I'm right here, maybe 3 or 4 feet in front of the car. I said, stop, motherfucker, I have a gun. And I pointed the gun on him. Who are you talking about right there?
The one who was closest to me.
Okay. And again, 3 or 4 feet, totally wrong.
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Judge, I need to get into the extent of how many times you said the wrong thing in this interview.
He's already testified that he said that throughout his interview,
That's not sufficient for cross.
Approach, please.
Sir, would you have any reason to disagree with me if I said that you told the officers that you were right in front of the car when this happened? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times throughout that interview?
I don't know the exact number.
Any reason to dispute that? Because we can go through each one if you want.
I mean, it sounds like sometime around that many times.
All right. So let me ask you about this idea that you approached them with the gun at a low ready position. What does a low ready mean?
It's a ready stance, so you can be ready to raise your gun if you need to.
Okay. In fact, you didn't have it at the low ready before they made any movement toward you, correct?
Could you clarify, please?
Sure. You were pointing the gun at them before they made any movement.
Wait, can you say, I mean, who are you talking about with they? Is this the second incident, the first
Okay.
incident, what?
The first time you shot 2 people, remember that?
Yes, I do.
At that moment, you were pointing it at them before they made any movement toward you, correct?
Correct.
So, in other words, they were not making any aggressive motion toward you before you pointed the gun at them.
They had already been aggressive toward me, yes.
At the moment you pointed the gun at them, what were they doing?
They were just walking toward me.
They were walking toward you.
Yes.
Well, let's go into that a little bit because you said something a little different to the police. Turn to page 36. Tell me when you're there.
I'm there.
All right. Line 6 through 8, you say, so I was like, if I shine a flashlight on them, they'll get scared, so I shine a flashlight on them. And then you continue on to say, then those 2 guys just charged me. So you're not talking about them making any movement before that, are you?
They were walking toward me, and then after I said that, then they started charging.
After you got their attention by shining a light in their eyes?
Yes.
In fact, you were shining the light, or I guess the flashlight attached to your gun, directly into their faces, correct?
In their upper body area.
Well, turn to page 151.
Okay.
You there?
Yeah.
Lines 4 and 5. You said they knew I had a gun. I had a flashlight in their face, right?
Yes, that's what I said.
Okay. And when you're shining this flashlight, this particular
Counsel,
light,
pursuant to Rule 106, read the rest of that response, please.
let me turn to it myself. You said, they knew I had a gun, I had a flashlight in their face. I said I had a gun, so stop. They said, I'm going to fucking kill you, is what you said, correct?
Correct.
So my question was, you had a light in their faces, meaning you actually had the gun pointed at them at that point, right?
Correct.
This is a very bright light, would you agree?
Yes.
300
Yes.
lumens, do you disagree with that?
I don't know how many lumens.
Okay. Brightest light out in that parking lot at that time?
I don't know.
Well, you just described how dark it was.
Yeah.
Was your light brighter than all the other lights around there?
I don't know. Probably.
Probably, okay. Do you remember, well, tell me how many people do you think were trying to pile on to you, as you described, after you shot Colin and Nick Peering?
4 or 5.
Okay. That's not what you told the police, though, right?
I don't remember what I told the police.
You told the police it was 5 or 6 or 10 guys that piled on you. Do you remember that?
Objection, Your Honor, could I have counsel cite the page to which he's referring?
I'd be happy to. Page 38.
Okay, I'm there.
Page 38, lines 7 and 8. That's what you said, right?
Correct.
There's a big difference between 4 and 10 people, right?
Yes.
All right, let's work out the math a little bit, because before you got up to that location, I think you described that there were 4 to 5 people over there,
Over where?
over where you shot the victims.
No, there was still the larger group from, I believe, that came out of Courtyard.
How many was that?
I think between 10 and 12.
And they were all clustered together?
Yes, they were on Jake and Shay.
Well, what point are you talking about? Is this when you walked over to shoot the victims, or before that?
Objection, Your Honor, assumes facts, not evidence, argumentative.
Sustained.
What point are you talking about, sir, when the 10 to 12 people were surrounding Shay and Jake?
Pretty much the whole time, I think.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, what did you actually see?
I couldn't see very well because I didn't have my glasses on and it was really dark.
Right, so you didn't know if they were surrounded at all when you were at your car, right?
No.
You didn't know if they were surrounded when you walked, as you described, 3 to 4 feet, turns out to be 90, toward the victims, right?
I think I might have seen them up there then.
You might have seen them at that point,
Yes.
and you believe that there were 10 to 12 people surrounding them.
Yes.
Now, you've sat through the testimony of this trial, and I assume you've listened to the testimony, right?
Yes.
Do you recall if anyone else described 10 to 12 people?
I don't recall, no.
Let me talk about your eyesight since you brought it up. You agree that your eyesight has been inconsistent during your testimony, as you described it?
What do you mean?
I mean, it seems like you can see things better at some points and not at others.
Like distances, you mean?
Right.
I don't know.
All right, well, let's talk about that. You told the police that you could see, well, and you told us today that you could see Shay and Jacob surrounded by guys, right?
Correct.
And you said that to the police that you could see them surrounded by guys from your car, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, vague counsel's not specifying the distance at which Mr. Jones said he was able to see these things.
Can you point to the area in the transcript you're referring to, please?
I certainly can. It's page 35, lines 22 through 23. Anytime the defense counsel wants a cite, I'll give it to him.
Every time, please.
What I want to do, Judge, is to see if the defense or the defendant remembers this.
35, you said?
Page 35, yes.
Okay. I'm there.
All right. You told the police you could see Shay and Jacob surrounded by guys from your car, right?
What line?
Sorry, line 22 and 23.
Yes, that's what I said.
All right.
Your Honor, I'd ask the counsel read from the beginning of the response because Mr. Jones talks about his glasses and his eyesight earlier in that same statement. Beginning at line 17.
Well, Judge, that doesn't go to what my question is, which is if he could see them. You know what, Judge, I take that back. I will read that. Line 17 through 23. You say, yeah, so I rack around in the chamber and I can't see shit. It's dark and there are people screaming and my glasses are off. So I was like, I need to get closer, you know? So I lean out the window and I'm like, don't move, I have a gun, stop. I don't know. I was panicking. Then I look over and I see Shay and Jake surrounded by guys. You're describing that you were leaning out the window when you see this, right?
Correct.
You can see Shay and Jake all the way from your car, is what you're describing.
Yes, that's what I said.
And I think you even said today that when the two victims that you first shot were rushing toward you, that you could see their eyes. They were looking at you.
Characterization of Mr. Brew and Mr. Peering as victims in that context, Your Honor.
They're legal victims, Judge.
Mr. Jones is presumed innocent, Your Honor.
Has nothing to do with it. I'll rephrase it, Judge.
Please rephrase it. The objection is sustained.
When you shot Colin Brew and Nick Peering, you described seeing their eyes, right?
Correct.
You were able to see in the darkness without your glasses their eyes as they came toward you.
Correct.
That's a little inconsistent with what you described other times about how you couldn't see in the dark. Wouldn't you agree?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel vague. He's not saying which other times he's talking about.
Well, were there other times that you couldn't see in the dark and your eyesight?
The whole time.
The whole time, except for when you could see their eyes, right?
Because they were really close.
And you were shining a light in their faces.
Correct.
Let me ask you about the situation where you say you shot in the air. You described shooting in there. How many times did you shoot in the air?
I don't remember.
And how did you point your hand?
Upward.
Can you demonstrate?
Yeah.
Just straight above your head.
Not fully extended, kind of bent a little bit.
And pointing the gun right in the air?
I believe so, yes.
So we've heard a number of people talk about seeing you shoot toward people. You would disagree with that?
Yes.
And Nick Prado, how do you account for how he got shot through the neck?
I have no idea.
Or Kyle Zentek in the back?
I didn't know at the time.
You would agree that's not shooting into the air, right?
What isn't?
When you shoot someone in the back, that's not shooting in the air?
Objection, Your Honor. This states the testimony argumentative, lack of foundation, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Are you disagreeing that you shot Kyle Zentek in the back?
Not on purpose.
Okay. Is that a yes or no?
No.
Okay. At that point that you shot Kyle Zentek in the back, were you the one with the gun?
Yes.
Were you pointing it into the air?
I was pointing it in the air, I believe.
You're not disputing that you were alone at your car, right?
Yes.
You're not disputing that your keys were actually in your front right pocket.
Yes.
You're not disputing that?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And it's not just one key, right? There are multiple keys on that key ring?
Yes, I think so.
And so if you patted on your pants, you probably should have felt them right there, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Were you wearing baggy pants or tighter pants?
Tighter pants.
Where was the key fob that you talked about getting out of your pants?
In the back left pocket.
All right. What happened to that after you shot Colin Brew, Nick Peering, Kyle Zentek, and Nick Prado?
I don't know.
You don't remember giving it to the police?
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. So at some point, you had the presence of mind to put that back into one of your pockets, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
Overruled.
I never took it out.
You just put your hand in your pocket and started pushing buttons?
Yes.
Where was your phone located?
I think it was in my front right pocket.
Yes. For a couple more minutes. Couple more minutes. We'll take a break. All right. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a 10-minute recess. Please remember the admonition.
It looks like a perspective from my car.
Okay. Looking toward where you shot Colin Brew and Nick Peering, right?
Yes,
Toward that area in the parking lot?
yes.
Can you see from that perspective, can you see where Colin's body would have been?
I can't really tell. It's fuzzy.
All right. Well, there's a car in the way too, right?
There's a car in the middle of the picture.
Right. So if you were looking toward that corner of the parking lot, you wouldn't be able to see anybody who's over there, correct?
I can't say for certain.
May I publish to the jury, Judge?
Sure.
I do old-fashioned way. Sorry, I don't have it. Again, this is the perspective of sitting in your car looking toward where you shot the victim, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. The reference Mr. Brew, Mr. Peering as the victims.
I'm sorry. Mr. Colin Brew, Nick Peering, Kyle Zentek, and Nick Prado, the people that you shot, this is where it would be looking for, right?
I don't know how close together the two clusters were, but yes.
So if we're looking out your door toward that corner, is there a car right here in the way?
It looks like it.
So you wouldn't be able to see if Shay or Jake were surrounded over there, right?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I could see the service drive because it was higher up, I believe.
May I approach again?
Yes.
347, show me where you can see the service drive beyond that car.
Right there.
Okay, to the left of the car,
Yes.
but not where you shot Colin Brew and Nick Peering.
I don't know.
You testified that a bunch of people were saying they're going to kill you, right?
Correct.
How many times did you hear that word kill?
4 or 5 times.
Did you hear it right when they came out of the courtyard area?
I believe so, yes.
And when you were going to your car, did you hear it again?
I believe so, yes.
And again before you shot Colin Brew and Nick Peering?
Yes.
As you've sat here during trial, have you heard anybody else describe hearing the word kill?
No, I haven't.
Were they saying it softly just to you?
No.
So you've been trained with a gun, isn't that right?
Yes.
You've been shooting since you were 8 or 9?
Yes.
And you did competition shooting as well.
Yes.
You would run courses and see how fast you could go through in shooting targets, correct?
Correct.
Let me go back and talk about some of the things that you testified to just today. You talked about you went to the Grove. There was a gathering there. Was there drinking?
Yes.
And any of your friends drinking that night?
The girls who lived there were, but not my friends.
Anybody smoking marijuana there?
No.
When you came back down Franklin Avenue, you said you were leaving that area when people just came out and confronted you. Is that a fair assessment or fair statement?
Yes.
But before that, you left out in your testimony how Jake and Mike had knocked on the door to one of the houses, right?
Did I say that today?
Did you?
No, I don't think so.
You didn't, right? You left that out?
I don't think I've ever said that.
Well, didn't you tell the police that you thought that's what happened?
Objection, Your Honor. Can counsel direct me to a page in line?
I will, but I'm going to ask for his memory first.
Officer Cools asked me if Hunter did a ding-dong ditch, and I said, I think he might have maybe, I don't know, something like that.
Okay. So you don't dispute that that could have happened at that moment?
It could have happened, yes.
You said you got punched in the face. Who punched you?
I have no idea.
Didn't see who it was?
No.
You said 3 or 4 guys were chasing you after that first punch, and you were able to outdistance them, weren't you?
I started running before they started chasing, so I got a lead in the beginning.
Right, you got a good lead. You went toward Mountain View, then you stopped, right?
Correct.
And then you came back.
I took 1 or 2 steps back toward the mob.
It's 1 or 2 steps now?
Yes.
Okay, so you're walking back, you stopped, you walked back toward where they were?
Yes.
And this is on that concrete driveway we've been looking at in front of Mountain View?
The service drive, yes.
And then as you walked back, you decided then to run to your car, right?
No.
What did you decide to do?
Run from the people who started chasing me
To where?
toward my car.
Okay, so you were running toward your car at that point, right?
Yes.
And you were able to outdistance them to your car as well.
Yes.
Jacob Mike described them as slow and sluggish. Would you agree with that?
No.
Very fast people?
Objection, Your Honor. Counsel's asking the witness to comment on the credibility of another witness who's testified. It's completely inappropriate.
No, I'm just asking if he agrees with that statement.
I'll allow it.
Could you repeat the question?
They were very fast people from your memory,
Yes.
even though they were drunk?
Yes.
You said something interesting. You said you instinctively chambered a round in your gun when you got in the car. What do you mean by that?
Objection to counsel's characterization as an interesting statement, Your Honor. Argument.
Overruled.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, you said something interesting earlier where you said that you instinctively chambered a round in your gun when you got in the car. What do you mean by that?
It's just something I did instinctively. It's just when I got the gun out of the glove box, I just did it.
Just did it. Okay. You told counsel today during your testimony that Colin Brew lunged at you. You remember testifying to that earlier?
Correct.
A couple different times?
Yes.
You never said that word to the police, did you?
No.
Is that a word you've picked up during trial?
Yes. Well, and reading the statements before that too.
What statements?
Like Shay and Jake's statements.
Oh, so reading their statements, now you think it was a lunge?
Well, that's where I got the word.
Did Jacob Mike ever testify it was a lunge?
I don't remember.
When you talked about getting piled on, for lack of a better word, by some people, and then you shot in the air, and then you said that there was one person that lingered around that was trying to get the gun, and you indicated that was Nicholas Pletke. You remember that?
Yes.
And so you were holding the gun behind you at that point?
At which point?
I'm sorry?
At which point?
The point I just described.
After they all scattered off of me?
Yeah.
Yes.
When you testified earlier that you had an interview with the police for 8 hours, it wasn't a continuous interview, was it?
I think it was. I slept toward the end.
All right. So you were sleeping. You weren't talking with someone every single minute of that, were you?
No.
You said that, you testified earlier that 10 to 12 people were surrounding Jake and Shay, right?
Yes.
How were they surrounding them? Describe that.
I couldn't really see too well because I didn't have my glasses, but I recognized Jake, I think, by his clothes and like how they were moving because I was familiar with them. And then I saw them back behind the guys who charged me, and they were like getting pushed and shoved, and it looked like they were in the middle of a group.
Where? Where was that happening?
I think eastward toward Mountain View. I'm not quite sure exactly.
And where were you when you saw this happen?
Back toward my car.
That 90 feet back?
I'm not sure exactly where.
You said that Shay was punched in the face. Do you recall Shay testifying he was punched in the face?
No.
So that could be wrong?
He said someone tried to punch him, I think.
Tried to. Was Jake and Shay, were they yelling for help, for you to help them?
Not that I remember, no.
So you had no idea if they were actually in distress or if they needed your help, did you?
They appeared to be in danger.
At what point?
During the whole thing.
Well, at the point you were at your car, you didn't know where they were, right?
I knew they were back there. I didn't know exactly where.
Well, you were chambering the round in your gun. Were you looking back to see where they were at that point?
No.
All right. And when you turned on the light, were you looking back to see where they were at that point?
I might have glanced in that direction.
You may have glanced?
Yeah.
And where were they?
They were back behind the two in front. I think.
Where?
Back east toward Mountain View.
Toward Mountain View?
Yeah.
You glanced over there and you think you saw them 90 feet away?
Yeah, I guess.
In the dark?
I had the flashlight.
You had a flashlight. And your eyesight, even though your glasses were off, it was good enough to see that far away.
I couldn't make out individuals. I could see like a moving group of people.
And you had no idea if Jake and Shay were surrounded at that point or if they were outside of the reach of anybody that could harm them, right?
They appeared to be surrounded.
They appeared to be because of how? How did they appear to be surrounded?
Because it was like a tight packed group, and I could hear them, I think, and I could make them out by, like I said, their clothing and how they moved and
right.
stuff.
And we don't want you to speculate. You keep saying, I think they were surrounded. You didn't see them surrounded, did you?
I can't say for sure, no.
Right. And you didn't hear them say, help, Stephen, we need help, did you?
No.
And you heard them testify that they were actually outdistancing all these other people that you described as fast, right?
Correct.
You kept talking earlier today about how your teeth got knocked out. You didn't know that at the time, did you?
What do you mean?
You didn't know that at the time that you got punched in the face that your teeth were knocked out?
No, I don't think so.
Right. That was something that happened or that you discovered later on?
Yeah, I think I realized it as I was running away.
From who?
From the people who chased me. I don't know who they were.
Toward your car?
Yes.
You realized at that moment that your teeth had been knocked out?
Somewhere along the way, I think I realized.
Because you never said anything when you were arrested, did you, about that?
I told the police.
But you did not, you declined medical attention at the scene, didn't you?
They gave me medical attention.
You declined medical attention is what happened, right?
So the firefighter asked me about my mouth and asked if I was okay and did like shine a flashlight in my eyes and, you know, did his thing. And then he said, do you think you need medical attention? And then I said, no, I think I'm fine.
Right. That's another way of saying you declined medical attention, right?
Oh, yeah, yes then.
You said you weren't planning on shooting anyone, but you had a gun in your hand that was loaded, right?
Yes.
There was a round in the chamber ready to fire.
Yes.
You had that light turned on, right?
Yes.
And nobody else over there that you were aware of had any weapons.
In the beginning, I thought I saw someone swinging a beer bottle.
You thought you saw that, right? But you could be completely wrong,
I couldn't be sure.
right? Because you thought it was 3 or 4 feet in front of your car when you shot these people, but it turned out to be wrong as well, right?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative.
It's asked and answered, too. Objection sustained.
You described shooting 2 individuals first, Colin Brew and Nick Peering, 2 people that never touched you that night, right?
I don't know if they touched me or not.
You didn't know if they touched you, but you're not sure they harmed you at all, right?
I couldn't say for sure.
Okay. So I guess my point is you shot both of them before they put hands on you at that moment.
Like I said, I don't know if they touched me before.
And the people afterwards that you described piling on you did have hands on you, right?
Yes, they did.
And you decided at that point to shoot in the air,
Correct.
not to shoot at people. Your words.
Correct.
Are you able to make a phone call when your phone is at 1%?
Yes,
It's possible, right?
it's possible.
So your phone was functioning at the time.
Yes.
When did you actually look down at your phone to see it was at 1%?
Before everybody came out of the courtyard and I got punched before all that when we were standing out front of the courtyard.
So you knew it was working at that point and you decided not to call 911, right?
Yes.
You said that nobody acknowledged that you had a gun. How many times did you say the word gun as you approached?
I believe it was 3.
3 times. You say it loudly?
3.
Did you say it loudly?
Oh, yes.
Did you hear anybody in this trial testify about hearing anything about a gun?
No. I don't think so.
Let's talk about some of the things you could have done that night. So we already talked about how you could have called the police, right?
I didn't think I could have.
You didn't think you could have, but you could have picked up that phone and made a phone call, right?
Objection, Your Honor, argumentative, asked and answered.
Sustained.
You could have stayed inside your car, right?
I could have.
You could have locked the door to your car, right?
I couldn't have.
You couldn't have locked the door to your car.
No.
You didn't have the ability to lock the door inside your car?
I didn't think I could have.
As you sit here today, you know you could have, right?
I think I probably could have.
You could have driven away.
I didn't think so at the time.
But your keys were in your front pocket, right?
Correct.
Right where you put them, presumably.
Yes.
You could have armed yourself and then gotten out of the car, and when you discovered that nobody was around you, you could have just stayed there, right?
I couldn't just abandon my friends.
Well, you didn't know they needed your help, did you?
I knew they were in trouble.
Well, you said earlier that you assumed that they were surrounded, but you didn't know, did you?
I didn't know for sure.
You had no actual reason to think that Jake and Shay were needing your help because they weren't saying that to you, were they?
Well, I had already seen them get assaulted before, and I knew there was a large group back there still.
You knew that when you were sitting in your car?
I think I realized after I got out.
Moment, Judge?
Sure.
So you testified earlier that these two individuals that we now know as Colin Brew and Nick Peering were sprinting towards you?
Correct.
Where were they when they began sprinting toward you?
I'm not entirely sure where they started, but they came down that sloped, rocky area.
So when we say sprint, how much space or how much distance did they actually cover?
It's hard to say. If I had to guess, I would say maybe 15, 20 feet.
15, 20 feet.
I really don't know.
So they covered that much distance down that little slope area?
I guess I don't really know. If I had to guess,
Well, I don't want you to guess.
then I don't know.
Okay. So I'm going to actually go on 316. It's an exhibit that you've seen during trial. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions.
Okay.
See that?
Yes.
This is Franklin Avenue, correct?
Correct.
All right. And here's the courtyard that we've established, correct? On the left side.
Correct.
And you indicated that you were punched in the street, approximately where?
Right around this area somewhere.
All right. And where were the 10 to 12 people you described?
Right around the same area. Like around here.
Were you doing a head count at that point?
No.
And then where did you go from there?
I got up and ran this way.
On the service drive?
Yes.
And you indicated that you went toward Mountain View and then you stopped and then walked back. Where did that happen?
I think it was around here.
So you made it all the way here and then you walked back to where?
Like here. I just took 1 or 2 steps back to check on everybody else, and then I started getting chased again.
And where were those people that were chasing you?
Could you go more to the right? About right here, but more towards like here.
They were chasing you as you walked back?
As I took a step this way, they kind of came up and started chasing me like that.
And who were those people that were chasing you?
I don't know.
Were they the same people you later shot?
I believe so.
What makes you believe that?
The color of their clothing.
What color was it?
White and dark.
Okay, and they chased you toward your car?
They chased me. Can you turn left a little, please? Can you turn to the left a little, please?
Yep.
We went this way a couple more steps, and then turned right.
Turned right toward your car, right? Out
Correct.
here in the distance?
Correct.
And you described them as being 3 to 4 feet behind you the whole time?
Yes,
The same people that you later shot?
I believe they were.
This is your car, the red Mustang?
Correct.
So where were they when you discovered that they weren't actually behind you anymore?
I don't really remember. I couldn't see too well, and it was dark outside, so they were just further back. That's all I remember.
Well, hold on a minute, because you said you're not sure because it was dark, you couldn't see that well.
Yes.
Didn't you just testify that you could see Shay and Jake over here?
Yes. I could see them up against the Mountain View building.
Uh-huh. All right, so at this point, they weren't by your car, right?
At the time, I believed it was about 10 to 15 feet back.
10 to 15 feet from your car?
Yes.
Let's try to measure that out. Let's just try this for an example. This is 9 feet. Does that seem right to you?
No.
Where were they?
I don't remember.
So these same people that you later shot managed to make it over here in this corner of the parking lot?
Objection, Your Honor. Who states the testimony? He said he wasn't sure and he thought it was them.
Sustained. Read phrase, please.
Sure. The people that you thought that you later shot made it over this corner of the parking lot after chasing you to your car. Is that your testimony?
I'm not really sure.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect.
There's one. You should have the other ones.
My first witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
347, this is the picture the prosecutor showed you ostensibly from the point of view from where your Mustang was parked.
Yes.
Could you maybe with my pen show the jury where you believe the service road is?
This.
Could you kind of,
Mr. Davidson, would you like to have him go down closer? I see several of the jurors squinting.
Okay. Should I use the laser pointer? or-
whatever you're comfortable with. Just kind of trace with the pen if you could where you believe the service road is. Okay. Yeah? Okay. So we can agree that a portion of the car blocks the surface road, correct? Now, in this picture, are there people on the surface road? I'm sorry, I can't hear. In this picture, are there any people on the surface road? No. Would you agree that if there were people on the service road, that they would be above the street?
Yes.
You still have the transcript in front of you, Stephen?
I do.
Okay. The prosecutor asked you early on in his cross-examination about whether you fired your weapon with the intent of killing anybody.
Yes, he asked me that.
Was that your intent?
No.
What was your intent in firing your weapon
Just
on that date?
to stop the immediate threat that was coming at me.
How many years has it been since you've competed in a competitive shooting competition?
Now or then?
Then.
About 5 years.
Is keeping a semi-automatic pistol in a fire-ready condition a common practice when you're in a threat assessment situation?
Yes.
Is it your understanding, based on the training you've received, that police officers customarily...
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
The prosecutor asked you about some statements you made that are on page 30. If you could turn to that, please, Stephen.
Okay.
You see where the prosecutor had you read?
No, what line was it?
Sure. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Okay.
It's page 31.
Okay.
And you were asked to begin to read toward the top of that page, and then you were later asked to read the information that appears right below it, correct?
Yes.
And in the middle of that, Mr. Barker noted that you did something but didn't describe what it was, did he?
Objection, may we approach, Judge?
All right. The objection is sustained, and I need to have counsel approach, please.